remember several years ago, we used to be paying 50,000. So we really made a great opportunities that came in with us. We really improved as our costs went down, so it's great. The Fall Festival Golf Classic, speaking of T-Tark, I want to advertise that they're going to do their golf classic, their Chili Golf Classic, and they're going to connect it with the Fall Festival. And that's Friday, September 20th to kick off the Fall Festival. So I hope everyone gets a chance to go. And if you don't like golf or chili, you can remember to come to the festival the next 2 days. They do a lot of good work. I saw them putting out the signs today. So that's a good event. And finally, we just sent out our letter, and I hope I pronounced this right,
Massillon.
Our football team will be going there, and we are selling tickets on the 20th. So, great season so far, and we just want to excellent practice. And finally, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Lego.
Okay, last month we had Mr. Antonio Massidi from PNC here talk about refunding the bonds, which we're going to pass a resolution tonight. With him tonight is our bond counsel, Mr. Christopher Brewer. So if you guys have any comments you want to make before the vote, or if the board has any questions, I think now would be the right time to do it.
All right, my question is, if one of the goals of this board is a potential new building in the future, which scenario would it be to put the money that we're saving on the bond refinance? Which one, if we wanted to build sooner than later? If we put it toward, my fear is if you put it on the oldest bond, it doesn't expire till 2030 something. It does little to help the board now. So I'm just asking what your opinion is. 2012, I guess, it's already in a down cycle, so there's not much to be gained there. But what about the 2013?
Yes, to answer that question, I think it really boils down to the net gain as to when the district would be able to get over the current peak debt service, which is going to be out there in really lingering not all that much longer, but by design of the project here at the high school. And pardon me as I flip to my notes. Really, you want to get to about 2024, 2025. And that's really where the remainder of the 2012s resides. So you want to get there anyway. By reducing that in the years 2023 and 2024, you're not necessarily accelerating getting there because you'll still have 2025 hurdle to jump over, if you will, to layer on new debt for the next project. Conceptually, by reducing anything out a little further, what you're doing is bringing down future debt service so that more of the future indebtedness, expected indebtedness, would come due and be able to mature sooner than you would if you left it in place. The 12s would be one to consider any ancillary monies as you get a lot closer to that, because they're at interest rates that are significantly low when they were issued. And the fact that we've hit and touched on historical lows and those still aren't refundable for any savings tells you that maybe that's debt that we would leave outstanding and pay down higher interest rate debt to try to benefit us. And again, the trade-off between paying down the 12s or reducing the term on, say, the 2013s or the 2014s is where's that hurdle really lie? And your last hurdle really sits right in that 24, 25, 26 time frame. And if you are going to get to 2024, you're still going to have to jump over those last two peak debt services, if you will, as you start down this slope. So by utilizing it at the end of the 13s, what you've done is open up a more significant maturity or year to fill debt service on any new issuance that would occur right around that 24, 25 time frame.
Make more sense into 2013 than it would if your goal is to use the savings to borrow against a new building, rather than the 20. What is the one that expires in 2031 or 32?
You have the 14s and the 13s and the 15s
The 15
that all
the
come
15.
due in 31.
Okay.
And then the 17 piece is the little bit longer that comes due. That's 2035, a small piece in 2035 on the remainder. But again, all of that is on the hillside, if you will, on the
When
downside.
does the 2013 expire?
Right now, 2031.
Wow.
That's the final maturity.
Even if you put this savings on there, you're really not bringing that down within,
You're going to, that savings would most likely bring that down, again, depending on market conditions, would bring that down to probably into 2030, and maybe potentially less in the 2030 as well, and allow you to accelerate the whole bond issue. So now you are creating a full, right now that's about 900,000 in debt service. You'd be able to clear that amount out of 2031 and possibly reduce a little bit of 2030 as well.
I didn't realize 2013 went all the way into 2031. Well, that answers my question, thank you.
Any other questions for Tony or Chris?
Okay,
Thanks.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
Well, sorry, Dr. Harris, can I say one quick thing? And excuse me if you've already said the same thing. Has everybody noticed that we put up a sign on the Performing Arts Center, said what's it say? Penn Trafford Performing Arts Center. Well, it's on, we just put it up, and I just want to let everybody know that the Penn Trafford Community Education Foundation was able to fund half the amount. So I just want to let you know that. So it was nice, and I think that we had made that suggestion on one of our previous meetings. I think that was the goal all along when Dr. Coloni first set out with this. It was to somehow support, not that we haven't already, but support some of the capital improvements in the district. And I think this is our first foray into that. Other than, we've been supporting mostly teachers' grants. So I thought this was a nice step after all these years to be able to, take some of that money that we've raised and put it toward the school district. So just wanted the board and everybody else to know that half that amount was paid by the foundation.
You want to put something, a small scripture way down the bottom saying funded by,
No, we're
no?
good.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
mean, no, it's, if you pay for half, I just think.
No, we're good with it. It's just good.
Okay, I'm just mentioning it, that's all. All right.
When you leave tonight, you drive past the auditorium,
It looks
you notice
good.
that it now says.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Harris. At this time, we do have someone signed up for audience recognition. You must state your name and address and group affiliation, if any. Your statement will be limited to 5 minutes in duration. All statements shall be directed to the president. No participant may address or question a board member individually. You may be interrupted if your statement is too lengthy, personally directive, abusive, obscene, irrelevant. And it's this time we have Nick, am I pronouncing your last name Otto?
Odo.
Odo. Mr.
Yes,
Odo.
thank you. My name's Nick Odo. I live at 546 Sunset Drive in Trafford. The reason I'm coming is because recently my son, who goes to Level Green Elementary, he's in 5th grade, he was coming home often, especially last year. A couple times we got a call from the nurse. His allergies are pretty bad. But this year, it started happening again. We didn't get a call from the nurse, but he was coming home complaining about it. Is this on? I don't even know. Can you? I'm loud and obnoxious, so you can probably hear me anyways.
Hey, good, let's do it.
Yeah. Anyways, we took him to the doctor. And once the doctor found out, that at school this was mainly happening, and the fact that Level Green Elementary does not have AC, and it's humid because I think there's only one window that opens in a lot of the rooms. Forgive me if I'm wrong on that, but that's what I was told, that is a heightened situation for allergens to become worse. We felt bad for him. Like, he's literally coming home with headaches. His eyes are completely beet red. I kept asking him if he got in trouble. Like, he was getting frustrated with me because I thought he was getting in trouble, and I was going to, lay into him about that. But it ended up being that he's suffering that bad from allergies. Sent a letter to Mr. DiNapoli, who was in contact with Dr. Harris, with the doctor's excuse saying that he should be in an environment with AC. I can't thank them enough. They were active really fast on it, and they were able to get an AC unit in Mr. G's room, but he goes to 4 different classes. So there's still 2 classes that don't have AC. why this is frustrating is because the answer they can't put AC in is because Level Green Elementary is at full capacity for power. As a parent, I was floored to hear that they're at full capacity and they can't do anything about it until they change the lights over to LEDs. I talked to Mr. Napoli. I said, please, whatever you have to do, that's great. He suggested letting the teachers move to an area with AC. Please don't just do that. Let the teachers decide. Let Carmen, he'll deal with it. Let them decide whether or not they should move. I don't want them leaving a classroom with all of their supplies, everything they need to educate our children. So that's where it ended. But then I found out that this has been an issue for a long time where we could have fixed this with changing the lights to LED for a long time. Now, apparently, we're making a decision based on the best decision, and we're taking our time with it. Obviously, that's a wonderful thing. Take your time to make the right decision, but at some point, we have to make a decision. It seems like we're kicking the can down the road, and that's more of an excuse. I don't know. I'm not privy to it. I haven't been to meetings and discussed
Did you
it.
read the newspaper last month? 'Cause we had a whole story.
I did not. I apologize on my ignorance on that.
It was covered with our last school board meeting. We actually are in our energy program right now, our plan, and we're getting bids and estimates. They did a very nice story from the last Georgia newspaper.
That's great. I did hear that we had a power, I want to say it was like an audit. But the problem is that's not going to happen this year. Like I don't foresee you guys destroying, I shouldn't say destroy, but fixing this problem in the spring when kids are in session. It's going to have to be something that happens in the summer. Well, we're now on several summers apparently where we've known the fix, but we haven't done it. So I'm not going to come here with problems without having solutions, and I do have solutions because I have a feeling like there's going to be a lot more kids that are going to come up with issues of allergies like my son has, because I'm sure there's a lot more kids in that school that have allergies that have no idea that it's worse there because of the heat and humidity. So some of my suggestions, they do cost money, but one is you're going to probably want to rent some solar power generators. You can put them in on the times where it's hot. You rent them. You're able to run power off of them. You have no issues. Yes, it does cost money. You can rent them. You can purchase them. They are expensive. I know a Yeti solar powered generator is probably between $1,500 and $2,000 per generator. You obviously don't want a big generator, diesel or gas, because it's going to make a lot of noise. Unless you want to, it doesn't matter to me, but it's going to make a lot of noise during the day when kids are trying to learn. So there's two options: alternate source of power. I don't suggest either. What I would suggest is what I found out, the boiler system at Level Green. Obviously, you have circulating pumps that run off of power. These aren't being ran in the summer. These aren't being ran in the hot weather. Now, in order to be able to utilize that power that you're not using, there's a lot of sub panels apparently in Level Green. You would take those sub panels and the power that's not being used until the winter, you would create other sub panels and where you can flip a switch so that teachers can actually run their AC units on a normal 110 if it's a small enough unit. And then whenever the heat needs kicked on, you switch the sub panel and you're good.
Excuse me. And this is in no way to disrespect you. I'm just talking about, what is your background in the electric? You know what you're talking about.
My background, I'm a teacher,
What do you teach?
health and phys ed at Plumboro School District. And I have some, oh no, you're not being ignorant. I appreciate the question.
Yeah, because I really like the solar thing. I mean, the other stuff's a little complicated. That's a little.
Well, the problem with changing the lights, obviously, is you guys are going to get into the ceilings. You're going to be changing a lot. You're going to be, it's a lot of physical manual labor, and you can't do that during the school year. It has to be done in the summertime.
Well, actually, they were talking about doing it before the spring.
How, I mean, would you think you
it'll
would be
be-
able to get that done in the Christmas break?
It'll be worked on at nighttime when kids are not in class.
I don't know. I won't speak. I don't know exactly. But that's pretty.
That I don't know. I do know next week we're going to be getting up into the mid-80s again.
Do you have any information on the solar stuff?
I just went on Amazon and looked, to be honest with you. I mean, Yeti makes a really nice
Yeah, I've seen it.
portable generator.
I'm aware of it.
But you have two schools that aren't running AC right now in many of the rooms. That would be quite an expense. I don't know how much it would cost to get an electrician in there or how long it would take to run sub panels. Mr. Leonard, you might know. I mean, you've been in the business of building, and I'm not sure if you know.
We are looking at those expenses. The cost of we did load studies to see, there's 7 buildings. all of them have AC and balance problems with trying to get air in.
Well, the one you're talking about, Level Green, that's what's that one like?
Level Green? Specifically, I don't have the paperwork in
We're
front of
down
me.
to 48 classrooms, 48 now, so we just put that one in across the district. Three
That's
of
a-
our schools are done with their classrooms. The other 5 we're working on.
Right.
We have 48 classrooms that don't have air conditioning.
Correct.
There's 300-some classrooms.
You got to think logically also. I mean, as a board, your first job is to make sure that our students are getting the education so they can do well on these tests. These kids are miserable in these classrooms, how hard it is. I don't know how much learning is going on in an environment like that. You'll get a little bit here and there, but think about your children when they were younger, unless you have young children now. When they're hot, they just slump over and they're just miserable. I don't know what they're going to retain in that aspect.
And this is, everything that I will ask you is always intended just to get information. Allergies, are they only, I understand the heat, but the allergies, they only present in the summertime? Do they diminish somewhat in the winter?
It'll diminish in the winter. There won't be much issue in the wintertime. It's just, like when he comes home, he may have allergies here and there, but, you know, we do the medicine like we're supposed to at night, but when he's at home in the AC, he's fine. We didn't realize it until we thought about it, and we're like, well, there's an issue, so that should be addressed.
Nick, just in terms of trying to wrap this up, we're not going to get you an answer tonight, so.
No, I'm not looking for an
So-
answer, but I just want to make sure you know that, like, this is an issue now that we have excuses to help. Obviously, I don't want to use that to where it's a detriment on anyone or anybody's budget, but now we're at a point where he really does need, and I'm sure there's a lot of other students that need to make sure they have the proper environment to be able to be healthy and survive. I don't want him pulled out of a class and kids go into other classes. This should be a situation where they should be able to stay in their own class and be educated without worry.
What grade's your son in?
He's in 5th grade.
Okay, appreciate you coming and letting us know.
Dr. Harris, thank you
your
so much for
concerns.
working with Mr. DiNapoli and getting that resolved. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for your time.
We really do like to hear that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please don't hesitate. I'll be here if you want to ask me any other questions. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Nick, appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, the treasurer's report. May I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report and the high school extracurricular fund report?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Nemec, second by Mr. Petrucci.
Question.
Question being called for, this will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Payment of the bills. May I have a motion to approve the payment of bills for the month of September 2019?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Kachasik.
Second,
Second by
take your choice.
Mr. Matarazzo. Question? Question being called for, this will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Old business. Dr. Harris. Thank you. We did have an executive session today at 5:15 prior to this meeting, which we discussed personnel, litigation, attorney advisory issues, and we also discussed non-traditional curriculum course offerings here at the school district.
You received information on your curriculum offerings.
Thank you. We received information. Okay, athletics and extracurricular, Mr. Matarazzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Tonight, we're just asking, I apologize, we're just going to be approving that's my place here, approving volunteer coaches tonight. And so I'm asking for it to move to approve the attached volunteer coaches as listed, effective immediately. All coaching volunteers must have Act 34, 151, and 114 waivers on file with the athletic director. Copy of the volunteer list will become an official part of the minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Second by Mr. Petrucci.
Question.
Question being called for, this will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
And that's all for tonight, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Matarazzo. Budget and Finance, Mr. Kachasik.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's moved to approve the proposed activities and budgets for the 2019-2020 school year for the high school and the middle school student organizations in accordance with the recommendations of the Auditor General's Office. Budgets and activities were reviewed and recommended by the business manager and filed in the district's business office.
Second,
Second by
Dallas.
Mr. Leonard. Question being called for, this to be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Move to approve the resolution authorizing the refinancing of the 2013 general obligation bonds. A copy of the resolution will be filed with the official meeting minutes.
Second.
Second by Mr. Nemec.
Question.
Question being called for, this to be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
That's all I have this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Kachasik. Buildings and Grounds Safety, Mr. Dallas Leonard.
I have no items under the Buildings and Grounds Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Employee Relations Negotiations, Transportation, Mrs. Ising.
Nothing to report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mrs. Ising. Food Service, Mr. Nemec.
Nothing from me, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Nemec. Personnel and Curriculum, Mr. Petrucci.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve the substitute teachers and support personnel.
Second,
Second by Mr. Leonard.
Question.
Question being called for. This will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
I'm abstaining.
Mr. Lego, could you please poll the board? You don't have to if he abstains? Okay. Mr. Kachasik, just says, no, did he abstains? Okay. Okay, once again, I apologize. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
aye.
All opposed, say no. We have one abstained. Motion carries.
Okay, move to employ the following personnel, new employees contingent upon receipt of all necessary documentation and acceptance of Act 34, 151, and 114 waivers from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania within 30 days. A copy of the personnel list will become a part of official minutes of this meeting. Carla Burris, paraprofessional, Penn Trafford High School, effective September 9th, and the rate of $10.35 an hour. Alexis Newingham, biology tutor at Penn Trafford High School, effective August 23rd, 2019 through May 22nd, 2020, substitute rate $110 a day. And Jessica Pointer, paraprofessional, Penn Middle School, effective September 4th, 2019 at the rate of $10.35 an hour.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Ising.
Question.
Question being called for. This will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Move to accept the attached resignations. A copy of the resignations will become part of official minutes of this meeting.
Second,
Second by Mr. Leonard.
Question.
Question being called for. This will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Move to approve the task leave request as listed. The copy of leave request will become part of official minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Second by Mr. Nemec.
Question.
Question being called for. This will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Petrucci. Policy, Public Relations, Legislative, Title II, Mr. Stovall.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to accept and file the minutes of the Superintendent's Information Committee, committee meeting held on August 12, 2019.
Second.
Second by Mr. Leonard.
Question.
Question being called for. This will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
One more item, move to give final approval to the following board policies and administrative regulations. A copy of these policies and regulations will become an official part of the minutes of this meeting, as listed.
Second.
Second by Mr. Petrucci.
Question.
Question being called for. This will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Good?
I'm sorry, that's all I have tonight, Mr. President.
All right, Mr. Stover, thank you. Taxes, Insurance, and Census, Mr. Bill Leonard.
Nothing to add, Mr. President, not this time.
Thank you, Mr. Bill Leonard. Solicitors report.
Nothing to report, Mr. President.
Thank you. So at this time, if everybody else has any other questions, concerns, or issues, I'm going to have a motion to
Excuse me.
adjourn the September
Just
9th.
one.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Leonard.
Are we getting ready to adjourn?
Yes.
Just wanted to welcome Mrs. Catabone from the IU, she IU rep.
She want to speak?
Do you have anything to say?
All right, well, thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion?
Mr. Leonard, second by
Motion.
Mrs. Ising. Meeting's adjourned.